Hey, welcome to a comedy video. I've got to do a little content warning about it first, though. This is probably the first time I've ever felt like the content warning itself required a content warning. Here are some of the things we're going to discuss in this forthcoming video. Child abuse, child sexual abuse, genocide, violence, a perhaps forthcoming fascist coup in Canada, a lot of anti-indigeneity, some ableism going on. There are some problems, is my point. There are some problems that we're going to discuss. So just be in the right mindset, friends. Sophie.
Mildred.
Obscure fact about me you might not know.
Okay.
A lot of people see my videos, they hear the way I talk all funny, and they think, "Oh, there he is. He's a typical American."
That is true. You're a red, white, and blue Yankee.
I know,
Everyone
it
knows
seems that way, doesn't it? But in fact, I'm actually part of an obscure country to the north of the United States called Canada.
Canada?
Yeah, if you look on a map, it's there. I promise you, it's actually quite large.
Well, I'll have a little look. Oh, you're talking about the indigenous regions above the U.S. that belong to indigenous people?
No, you guys stole it for us and then gave it to us. Don't pretend like you don't know.
Trying to get away with one of those little British moment.
All jokes aside, I find that a lot of people outside of Canada don't know a lot about it.
I wouldn't say I know loads. Nathan Fielder, Nirvana the band, the show.
Let me ask you just a question. This is not a trick question. Who would you say is the Canadian head of state?
Oh, the Queen.
Quick little note here. Obviously, this video was recorded before Queen Elizabeth died of having too much diarrhea. We didn't know at the time that the Queen was going to die shitting her guts out on the royal toilet. Interesting. Interesting answer. Could you be a little more specific?
The Queen of England.
No, I'm afraid that is incorrect.
Damn.
You got closer than most. Most people would erroneously say Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, is our head of state.
He is actually your chief magician and blackface operative.
And a slightly nerdier answer, something, politics nerds might say, is either the Queen of England, as you said, or the Governor General who rules in her stead in Parliament.
Right, yes.
None of those are correct. Canada does have a queen, but it's not Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh.
Her name is Ramona Didelot. Are you familiar with Ramona Didelot?
No, I'm not familiar with this queen at all. And I know quite a few queens.
Yeah, you stand a queen, famously. To be clear, she is, of course, eventually going to become the queen of the world. But she's starting with Canada to show people what her rulership style will be like.
Ramona.
My fellow Canadians, I address you today as your Queen, Commander-in-Chief, and Head of Government. Effective immediately, I am authorizing the Kingdom of Canada's Armed Forces and Special Forces to ensure all borders between Canada and the United States are free and clear.
Okay.
It is to ensure that our militaries between two countries can enter freely and safely within a moment's notice, and ensure that our military and special forces are able to execute their orders under World War III operations.
Oh, okay.
That's her. That's how she tends to operate. She tends to make decrees to the country that then must be obeyed.
You had me at open borders. That was feeling good. And then she was saying to get the military across the border.
And special forces.
World War III is an interesting start to your policy platform.
It's interesting that she mentions that because I have not really found much mention of her talking about World War III, which is apparently ongoing aside from that. You'd think that would be a big priority for the Queen of Canada later the world?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'll just check out my window. I'm not seeing loads of World War III out there.
I've observed a pattern in our Cringe Corner videos. Often, your videos will be about some hateful, awful movements of people, a broad trend, whereas mine tend to be bullying an individual who desperately needs help. Ramona Didelot might be mentally ill, and she might not be. I don't want to speculate on that. Right. I will say a lot of the shit she says is very much in line with what you might expect from someone trying to build a supernatural cult. She has amassed a very frighteningly large following.
Oh. Okay.
Which is why I think she is worth talking about.
This is one of these issues we come across where people who lead cults, often do have delusions of grandeur and probably could benefit from some degree of a mental health professional, but that doesn't mean that what they're doing is not hurting other people and not dangerous.
It's the same way that if we zoomed out on like L. Ron Hubbard's beliefs, some of them sound out there and you might think, oh, this guy needs some help. Well, maybe, but he also uses that to exert power over people and do things that caused harm in the world. This is why we're talking about Ramona Didelot today. You're probably wondering how she became Queen of Canada.
Personally, I think she is just so regal that she's making me buy into the divine right of kings. I would choose to believe that it's a higher power who made her queen.
Yes, it is, but not God.
Oh.
Some would argue they work for God. So there's two versions of the story that she tends to tell.
Yeah.
One is that she was active in an insurgent campaign to drive out an invading force of Chinese communists who were attempting to invade Canada.
The Chi-Com atheists, I know these lot, yep. Mm-hmm.
She rooted them out and thus was appointed Queen of Canada by the same white hat military tribunals that Q is in communication with.
Oh, good. Okay.
That's one version of the story she tells. The other is that although she may appear to be an ordinary human being, she is in fact a non-Euclidean, non-three-dimensional alien being known as an Arcturian.
Some of my best friends are Arcturians. Being a Martian myself, I'm overjoyed to hear that she is an Arcturian.
So she is capable of all sorts of supernatural feats. She can turn invisible. She can shapeshift. She has special technology called med beds. Have you heard of med beds?
Yes, absolutely.
For those in the audience that aren't as familiar, it's a type of technology that QAnon people claim exists. It's cures all ailments, can make you immortal. Certain powerful people in the world have access to them, but also still need adrenochrome for some reason.
And that's why Hillary Clinton looks so good.
Yeah, she looks amazing.
But she has a med bed.
She has a med bed and all sorts of supernatural powers, which she just does not feel the need to demonstrate. Her plan is once she is in a position of power, she can distribute that technology so it's not just hoarded by the elites.
So she does actually support M for A, med beds for all.
Yes.
Yeah.
She believes a lot of truly based things is this very surprising thing about her.
Yes.
No, if you just heard her talking and didn't know she was like a QAnon person, you would be forgiven for thinking she's like a lefty loon.
Yeah.
You would be forgiven for thinking she's just like a what are those dolphin guys? The dolphin alien guys. They want to nuke everybody.
Oh, Posadist.
Yeah, you'd think she's like that.
I mean, I think that she probably could well be working in league with Bernard Montgomery Sanders, who famously, was the second shooter at Dealey Plaza. He was probably just trying to stop the monopoly on the med beds.
I see that you've adopted the mainstream media's messaging on the subject, because in fact, JFK is alive and recovering in a med bed as we speak.
But he did get shot by Bernie Sanders in an attempt to liberate the med beds, is what I'm saying. It's my belief. It's my personal belief and does not represent the opinion of Cringe Corner LLC.
Yeah, no, we'll run it past the board and see what they have to say.
It's also at times my personal belief that JFK's head just kind of did that.
Just had a lot of high-level ideas. Now, you're probably wondering, as I would be, what kind of policies is she going to put in place as
desperately
leader? So I thought we'd watch this interview with one of her loyal subjects.
I'm so ready.
Hi, I'm Raven Moonstone with We the People News. I'm sitting here very humbled in the presence of Her Majesty Queen Ramona Didelot, Commander-in-Chief and Head of Government of the Kingdom of Canada. We're here today to talk about her 54 written decrees, which are like executive orders for the Kingdom of Canada. So one of the very first royal decrees...
Wait, hold on. If you had to guess what her first royal decree that they're about to discuss, one of the first ones that they're about to discuss, what would you say it's about?
Jeez.
What would you say? I need you to guess.
The bank, something about the banks. I want to say they want to challenge big banking in some way.
Interesting.
One of the very first royal decrees that was written was about the age of consent. Yes.
Oh, oh dear. Oh no. Oh, I've fallen right into one of the most classic blunders.
Care to hazard a guess what she thinks the age of consent should be?
I want to imagine that as an immortal alien, she wants it to be like 1,000 years old. I wish that she were about to say, when medbeds are available to everyone, people will have to wait until they are 90,000 years on this planet before they can have any sex. No, she thinks it should be like 14 or some shit.
Well, let's find out.
So the age of consent, which was at age set at 24, for example, if one in the relationship is under 24 and the other one, let's say for example, is 50 or 30, there's nothing wrong with it until such time the individual who is under 24 starts screaming rape. The idea of the age of consent being 24 is basically to remove as many pedophilias who have been grooming our children and youth.
Thoughts on this? Get it all out. Get it all out.
Oh boy.
So the way age of consent would work in the official Kingdom of Canada, it seems, is that it's not a hard and fast rule.
Yeah.
It retroactively becomes statutory rape in the event that it is rape. Which seems to imply, to me at least, now I'm not a legal scholar, it would seem to imply that adults are free to have sex with children as long as that child does not protest.
Yeah, it does seem like that is what she's saying.
Well, maybe she clears it up for us a little bit.
I'm no legal expert, so let's just watch more.
Neither of us are lawyers, so...
Couples who are under 23 or under 24, they can have sex. That's not an issue. It doesn't prevent people from having sex. It's just that if one starts complaining and they are under 24, that's when it becomes an issue.
Yeah, so just in case you were worried that we might have misinterpreted, she does later clarify, if you're under 24, you can still have sex.
Yeah, she really just wants everyone having sex. Young, old.
How do we stop pedophiles? It's a difficult question to answer, isn't it? In her wisdom, it's obviously if you want to stop pedophiles, what you should do is make laws around statutory rape laxer.
Well, the only thing that can stop a bad guy with an attraction to children. No, hang on. This one's not working out for me. No.
Yeah, so I think that one's a miss, right?
I can't say I would vote for it, but then again, she's a queen. She doesn't need my vote, so
she's very clear that she is a dictator. She uses the word dictator herself.
Of course she does.
Does seem like it would exclusively make it easier for pedophiles, but
it does.
Not a legal scholar.
But the thing about policy is that it isn't about single policies. Sometimes you have a whole policy environment, and it could be that her next decree will make this one retrospectively make more sense.
Let's see.
One of the biggest royal decrees that you wrote that many people don't know about yet is no income tax.
Yes, absolutely.
That's my faves.
I believe we are the first country in North America, actually in Americas, and I believe in Europe and Asia. Actually, we have the United Arab Emirates has no income tax. But in Western countries, we are the first one to not have income tax.
Okay, so what is her tax plan?
None. Not any.
No taxes.
No income tax anyway.
No income tax. She's just scrapping it. Doesn't care about that one. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean it makes sense, right? Because that way you get to keep your money.
Yeah, I mean I'm tired of Big Joe government taking a big bite out of my paycheck.
Yeah, and also just a point of order when she says that this would make Canada the first country in North America. No, actually, the Americas. No, actually, the Americas, Europe, and Asia, except for the United Arab Emirates with no income tax. Canada actually didn't have income tax until the First World War.
Yeah, she just means compared to right now, I think.
Okay,
I don't think she's done much historical reading, but she doesn't need to.
Interesting take on the word first.
You made homelessness and poverty unlawful.
Yes, absolutely. It is quite repugnant.
You know, that one, I gotta say, she's not really doing much different to the... I can't necessarily support this as a change to the current government's... here in the UK, I don't know about over in Canada, but homelessness and poverty aren't exactly smiled upon by Johnny Law.
It's in fact poor phrasing on her part.
Yeah. Okay.
As much as it might seem like a continuation of the current policy of simply arresting poor people or arresting homeless people, she's saying that they should be provided for.
Right.
People being poor or homeless itself is a crime.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the guilty party in that scenario? It is unclear. What are the consequences for that? It is unclear.
Being as generous as I can to our new queen, because you know I love to stan a queen, let's assume that the guilty party is the state, if there is as many as one homeless person or as many as one person in poverty, in which case, based.
It would be, right? Not everything she says is horribly regressive in the way that you might expect from a QAnon person. If someone would make it so that nobody was poor or homeless, I would expect that if someone had a plan to do that, they would explain how.
Well, it just might be one of those plans that you need to not explain until the proof is in the pudding, like when Bernie Sanders pulled off his great plan. He didn't tell anyone it was going to happen.
I think it's this part where she explains where the money is going now.
Okay. Cool.
And
that's good.
Interesting parallels here.
Mm-hmm. And you've called for an audit of We the People's money through the royal decrees as well.
Yes, I have. I believe that this is the first time that the We the People's money is being audited. Mm-hmm. And the first time that We the People will find out how much wealth they have when the government is not stealing it and sending it to their friends abroad.
Now, she's new to governance, so I will say that there actually have been previous audits.
Well, but not by her and not by the people.
True.
By We the People.
So her followers are called IAMs, and the nation is We the People.
Okay, where does Will come into that? Or she amends We the to the start of people, including when she's going to say the people, so it's the We the People.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Also, We the People is a phrase lifted from the American Declaration of Independence.
Yeah. Kind of making the same mistake you said at the start of this video, that a lot of people tend to assume that you're American. She seems to have assumed a general just Americanness to everything.
You'll notice a lot of American language in the way that she speaks. Like she refers to her decrees as like executive orders. They're not. They're like royal decrees that a king or queen would make.
Yes, which Canadians should be actually fairly familiar with.
She refers to herself as commander-in-chief.
Yes.
I've never heard the head of state of any other government other than the United States ever call themselves.
Yep.
The reason for that is that the majority of her following and the majority of her audience are actually American.
But she wants to open up the border so that Canada can be annexed. I mean, rule over America.
In this interview, there's a really good example of the ways that the failures of the institution of the current Canadian government enables this type of quackery. So an ongoing problem in Canada right now, and in the States, I'm to believe, a lot of the reservations where our Indigenous people live don't have access to fresh, clean water. It has been a problem for centuries. It's just they're just doing nothing about it.
Almost as if it was the intention the whole time to put people in essentially a human zoo that is shrinking and has completely impossibly cruel conditions. Yep.
Romana has some thoughts on this. I will preface this. They go to a dark place. Still better than anything proposed by any major political party in Canada. So
wonderful.
The other things, the one thing that was really, I've been, I guess, campaigning a large part of my life for is clean drinking water in Canada. I could never understand why we didn't have clean drinking water. in a lot of our reservations and all of those things. But that is a royal decree now, even for the farmers to have free and unlimited irrigation drinking water, so we can grow better food.
Well, it's basic. Water sustains life.
So far, a hell of a lot of this is it. Am I forgetting any of the other decrees? It feels like everything is kind of balancing against the age of consent one she made at the start at this point. It kind of feels like all of these very good decrees and this incredibly iffy decree. Well, no, we'll see where this one... you said that this goes to some dark places, I guess.
The thing is, what all of her good or bad decrees share is that they're all nonsense. That she doesn't explain how she's going to accomplish any of the things that she said.
Yeah.
She'll make all sorts of promises. But like...
Yeah. Well, same. So
this woman who's interviewing her wants very badly for what she's saying to be true. Because for a lot of people in Canada, the government has simply either failed them or actively tried to exterminate them.
Absolutely.
And that leaves the door open for like someone who goes, I'll fix the problem. I'll fix the problem. Give me power. Yeah. A lot of people are going to gravitate to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially when like the fucking, there's just no opposition. There's no party saying like, we should fix this problem. They're all just kind of, at best they will acknowledge there is a problem, but nobody will just fucking fix it.
The old corporation government that really didn't have the intention of providing clean drinking water, as well as some of the indigenous peoples who were put in charge or were in charge in their communities, also were corrupt and stole all of that money that they received from the corporation governments that was meant for their people.
So this is the thing. Anytime that she talks about providing clean water to indigenous communities, she's always very careful to place the blame for the conditions of indigenous communities on the corruption of indigenous leaders rather than the Canadian state.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm saying that it comes from a dark place, right?
Yeah. Like we need to sort the good ones from the bad ones.
I think it's worth looking at some of her decrees now. Very first decree, race theory in Canada 2.0.
Are we talking about race theory 2.0 in Canada, or are we talking about race theory, how race theory will be in Canada 2.0?
Excellent question. I have read the decree. I'm not sure.
Okay, I am looking forward to either Race Theory 2, the sequel to Race Theory, or Canada 2, the sequel to Canada.
Let's just see what she has to say about race theory. These are all formatted like emails also.
Cool.
Race theory in Canada 2.0. Effective today, race theory in Canada is #unlawful.
Are we getting a sense that someone set up this website for her and they emailed her about each thing that she wanted on the website, and then they copied and pasted the email, maybe, just onto the website?
Her web presence is strange. To be honest, a lot of the research for this video was difficult because I didn't want to join a bunch of QAnon Telegram channels. I know a more dedicated anti-fascist researcher might have done such a thing. I did not.
I am feeling very let down by your lack of dedication to Cringe Corner and to conflict journalism right now.
I am on enough watch lists as it is. All textbooks / digital hard copies, other teaching methodologies with reference to, quote, race theory are to be removed and #destroyed effective immediately.
Okay. So we are talking about critical race theory here.
I don't see these words. I don't see, it says race theory.
Okay. Well, yes. Well, in that case, yeah, let's get rid of race theory.
No more race theory.
One race, human race. Let's go.
Yeah. And there's she's got a lot of opinions. We've already discussed her views on the age of consent.
Yes.
But she has two different decrees for that.
One is sexual relations and one is about marriage.
A lot of married couples do have sex.
Oh, I've only learned everything about life from stand-up, and I feel like that's not true, even slightly.
Depends on how long they've been married, I guess. It's not simply that you must be 24 years old to get married. You also must attend a 1 month of premarital seminars, married life, children, responsibilities of raising children, financial responsibilities, etc.
Like a prenup with the state.
Here's an interesting one. Both individuals applying for a marriage license must be Canadian / permanent residents of Canada.
Don't like that. Not a fan of that. That's not great.
Just so you know, if you do violate this law, you're liable for up to 30 years imprisonment without bail or parole, including expulsion from Canada, which I would argue not a form of bail or parole, but once again, not a legal scholar.
You get married, and then you have to go to prison for 30 years. What's the difference? Am I right, fellas? I'm here all week. That's not a great policy. I'm actually losing enthusiasm for the Queen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, doesn't matter. She's the dictator. Just some cool stuff that she signs her decrees with: peace and prosperity or perish, your choice. She doesn't play politics. She's got a number of titles: Her Royal Highness Majesty Queen Romana Didelot, Head of State and Commander-in-Chief, Head of Government, President and Queen of the Kingdom of Canada, # where we go one, we go all.
So these are literally emails.
A big one for her. Now, she's very concerned about the vaccines.
Yeah.
She's very concerned about them.
I imagine she would be. I mean, just so much 5G in those. Bill Gates really packs them full. I'm trying to get this video demonetized right now.
I think we might have already crossed that threshold. This one is really confusing. I'm not sure that I understand it 100%.
Royal decree, school closures.
To whom it may concern, I, Queen Romana of Canada, Head of State and Commander-in-Chief and Head of Government, hereby issue this royal decree prohibiting all academic and non-academic schools, including daycare centers, from operating in the school year 2021 to 2022. Note, homeschools are exempt from this royal decree under the following conditions. Students and teachers must not be required to wear masks, do PCR tests, or be vaccinated.
Okay.
Penalty for failing to adhere to this royal decree is death.
Am I understanding this right? She does want schools in general closed, but what she wants to replace that is homeschooling, specifically anti-vax homeschooling.
Yes. Now, this is one of the first things that got her in the limelight, got her in a spot of trouble, to be honest with you. She's very clear that the penalty under her leadership for vaccinating children is death.
So we had 30 years in prison before, but this is just, you just die.
Well, 30 years in prison is for statutory rape, but it's death for vaccination.
Yeah, I mean, you think of all the microchips you'd be putting in that child's body. That's just not right.
And she had her followers kind of, now not enforce it, but kind of educate people about the new rule. Basically, her plan was she issued a decree saying that no public business, no public school, no one should be out there vaccinating kids. If they get caught doing it, the punishment is death. And she had her followers go out and give them to local businesses and print them off and deliver them to local businesses. Some Didelot followers paid extra to send their bogus paperwork via certified mail. One woman shared a picture of a letter that she'd sent to a Missouri OBGYN. A USPS stamp revealed that she'd spent $4.15 on the postage for the single letter. Another person uploaded a picture showing that she had spent more than $65 to send a certified mail to a cluster of businesses, including a urology clinic, a veterans hospital, a marijuana dispensary, and TikTok.
Awesome. So they were sending essentially death threats, right?
Yeah.
Because they were saying, we recognize this person's sovereignty as queen. She has decreed you will die.
Yeah. Well, they're issuing cease and desist letters to TikTok and urologists to get them to stop vaccinating kids. And she's clear, if you violate this, you will be put in front of a military tribunal.
Yeah. Peace and prosperity.
Or perish.
Perish. Which way, Weston man?
I thought there was something in here about someone giving out a message at a Dairy Queen. I could have... Maybe I imagined that. Following this, she was taken in by the police. They did a wellness check, essentially. She was held for a couple days and released, where she claims that a doctor told her she is, and direct quote, not certifiable.
Okay. Well, congrats.
So in the version of events that she tells, she sends out a bunch of death threats to a bunch of unrelated businesses.
Yeah.
So the police are they take her against her will and confiscate a bunch of her stuff. Something I think if you were trying to portray yourself as somebody, under the threat of the jackboot of the state, something I think it would be pretty easy to make yourself seem sympathetic during.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Her version of events is that they take her to the doctor is well, I can't guarantee you're insane, I can't certify that.
I'm just imagining the eventual point where a lawyer in a court of law is just begging her, please, Romana, just say they did say that you're certified, please.
Yeah. So this is an excerpt from an article, a Vice article, and it contains some nuggies. This is a quote from Didelot.
Mm-hmm.
At the firing squad, the military firing squad, you will receive not 1, but 2 bullets on your forehead for each child that you have harmed as a result of injecting this experimental vaccine, said Romana Didelot to those involved in vaccination efforts in a recent video on Telegram.
Just the double tap to make sure.
So when you go home tonight, think about how many bullets.
Wow. You're
going to shoot me once? All right. Wait, you're going to shoot me 2 bullets? Fuck!
Well, I had 2 bullets for every child. Think about that.
Yeah, that's a lot of bullets.
How many children does an average, nurse vaccinate? Probably in the hundreds. That's just a wasteful policy.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's just there's no more face to shoot.
At a certain point, it's honestly yeah, we ran out of bullets. we just used up our entire stockpile, and we've done the first 4 executions.
To know the volatility of her followers, however, you must first know who they're following. Didelot is the, quote, leader of an online political party called the Canada First Party of Canada, which does not appear to have been officially registered anywhere, but has been turned into a corporation by Didelot. Now, I pause here to note, she often says that the previous government of Canada was simply a corporation.
I mean, legal entities have to be incorporated in some sense to, operate in certain regards, but it, not as in they're just a business, not as in they're just a way for you to move money around. I take that back regarding modern capitalist states, but not like they're just a company, right? Not like they're just an LLC.
But to me, this suggests that at least partly, because that is a common sovereign citizen talking point, that governments are just large corporations that you owe no fealty to, which I'm sympathetic to. But it does seem to me as though she's using that talking point to preemptively deal with that criticism, that she's simply doing this as for business reasons, because she has not registered this as a political party, and therefore it doesn't seem that she actually has any political ambitions, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe not any electoral political ambitions.
Yes.
She has a different route to the White House. Route to the. What do you guys have? Some kind of thing.
It's a really big Tim Hortons. She began posting about the party and making videos about her policies in late 2020 during the second wave of the pandemic. However, the party never took off, and she languished in obscurity for some time.
RIP.
That all changed in May when she changed tactics and switched her rhetoric to fit several popular QAnon narratives. After getting noticed by a couple of well-known QAnon figures, her profile has been growing rapidly.
I like when would-be cult leaders are just oh, there's my target audience.
You'll notice a typical QAnon person tends to focus more on the evil being done, on the there's this cabal and they're eating babies.
Yeah.
Once we get rid of them, things are going to be great, but they don't tend to focus on how things are going to change.
Yeah.
Whereas she is very clear and well, here are the things I'm going to do for you when I'm in charge.
I mean, yeah, she has so many decrees.
No income tax, free electricity, going to clean up the drinking water. I'm going to get rid of all the pedophiles. I'm going to do it all. And that to me suggests a certain manipulative character.
Although, again, as you said before, when she actually digs into how any of those things are going to work, it's gibberish. But yeah.
She knows she doesn't need to, right? She now has almost 20,000 followers on Telegram, her primary channel, and a growing and engaged audience. I should note, that is no longer the case. She now has 73,000 followers on Telegram.
Oh, good.
Hello, Canada. I'm Romana Didelot. I'm the founder and leader of Canada First. As of February this year, 2021, I am the head of state and commander-in-chief of Canada, the Republic. Canada's not a republic.
Well, yeah.
And also, if it were, it therefore could not have a queen.
Yes. Yeah.
The people who appointed me are the White Hats in the U.S. military, together with the global allied troops and their governments, the same group of people who have helped President Trump.
Just men with guns will definitely help if shit hits the fan. Don't worry.
The violent rhetoric she spouts in her posts and videos seems to be one of the main things driving her popularity. Let's keep this simple, Didelot wrote recently. Death is the penalty for crimes against humanity. Now, I would think that's actually something you don't want to keep simple. You actually want that one to be pretty complicated. You're going to want to have some... Yeah.
Maybe if you're saying, like, this is the bar for crimes against humanity, there are many different ways to get there, but, like, maybe I can see what you're saying there, but it's also, like, there are still so many different crimes against humanity.
Well, I think what we can all agree is that simply saying, what's my policy? Death penalty for crimes against humanity. No clarification needed. End of discussion. That is insufficient. Yeah. You don't want to keep that simple. You should be very clear about what those crimes are.
No, yes, I can definitely agree with that.
Oh, this is where the Dairy Queen thing was.
Okay, here we go.
While the group is active at the moment, its activities seem constrained to handing out cease and desists, but even in this fairly innocuous activity, doesn't always go so well. Served Dairy Queen a cease and desist, wrote one woman. Very rude. Patrons were laughing at us. 2 employees walked out and videotaped us. One said we can't go there anymore.
Dairy Queen, the cease and desist.
Yes.
What were they asking Dairy Queen to stop doing?
To cease and desist.
I mean, I agree.
Just cut it out.
But specifically, what were they trying to get them to stop doing? Because I don't. If they were just telling them to stop, just stop it.
Knock it off.
I would say, Dairy Queen. I got a bone to pick with Arby's. Let's see, Cinnabon.
I'm sure she lays it out for us.
So you're not going to let me purchase this about...
Okay.
Okay, really? They told you gals politely.
Okay.
They told you politely. It is a policy.
So, you've been served. You've got 7 days. You've been served. Thank you. Have a good day.
Cease and desist, practicing social distancing and mask wearing.
They were like, ma'am, you have to wear a mask.
Yep.
She's like, so you won't sell me this if I'm not wearing a mask? And they said, no, it's fine. We'll sell it to you. We'll give you everything you want. And she's like, you've been served.
Yeah, she wants them to cease them wearing masks.
Didelot didn't shrink before the demands put on her by the quick growth of her audience and posts frequently under the guise that she's leading Canada. She decreed that Victoria is the new capital of Canada and recently released a video addressing the Indigenous community after the bodies of 215 children were found in a mass grave outside of a residential school. She promised to investigate if they were killed for adrenochrome harvesting. A central tenet of the QAnon conspiracy revolves around the false idea that elites torture and kill children to extract adrenochrome.
It's just like there's such an obvious and worth engaging with reason why they were killed that you could lead you to challenge the way that things actually are, but instead you're just like, no, I really want to live in this fantasy land that makes me money.
In your mind, if it is not for adrenochrome harvesting, is it fine then? Is that a lesser crime?
We'll give them 1 extra bullet for every kid if it was adrenochrome.
And this brings us, I think, neatly to why she's in trouble now, why she was trending on Twitter. She recently issued a directive to her
fuck yes.
followers.
Fuck yes.
And again, pretty based, I would say.
Yep. Pretty based, actually.
She asked them to arrest the police.
Arrest police, evict landlords, fire your boss. The one-sided relationships you think you have to agents of the state turn out to be two-sided when you work together. Let's fucking go. You have nothing to lose but your chains. But it won't be for good reasons, will it? It will not.
No. So about 300 people showed up for a protest outside the Peterborough police station. 2 people are facing charges following an attempt at the Peterborough police station on Saturday afternoon, August 13th, by followers of self-proclaimed Queen of Canada, Romana Didelot, to, quote, arrest Peterborough police officers. Based in British Columbia, Didelot espouses a mix of sovereign citizen beliefs, QAnon conspiracy theories, and New Age spirituality. She claims she has supernatural abilities, including invisibility, because she's a member of a highly advanced alien race called the Arcturians, who possess miraculous medical technology. Last November, Didelot was detained by police after she encouraged her followers to shoot to kill anyone who gives vaccines to children, simply for encouraging her followers to on-site execute
for the mere trifling
crime.
Act of encouraging.
She's also called on her followers to stop paying their energy and water bills and taxes.
Based?
In a sense. I don't think anybody should pay those things. If you have a following and you say, hey, stop, you don't have to, nothing will happen, you're potentially going to get them in trouble.
Hey, Cringe heads. Don't brush your teeth.
Do floss, don't brush.
Yeah, no, you're right. If it's not a part of an actually willful, organized political campaign that's going to change something, you can't just be telling all your followers, just don't pay your utilities bill.
Yeah, it's like declaring a general strike.
Yeah, declaring a general strike in your Discord server.
Who amongst you are prepared to keep your city safe, peaceful, and secure after you've peacefully arrested Peterborough, Ontario Police? Didelot had asked her followers. Didelot, who was in Peterborough for Saturday's protests, claimed her followers have raised more than $100,000 so she can tour Canada in an RV along with her entourage. You can see why I think maybe it's some grifting going on here.
Yep.
She did, by the way. There's videos. There's a video of her in my hometown, which was very cool. Love to see that. She's got a following there, so that's very cool. Didelot emerged from her RV at one point to offer vegetables and sardines to her supporters.
Just like Jesus, if you think about it.
At around 1 p.m., Curtin led a group of around 30 people to the Peterborough Police Station at 500 Water Street in downtown Peterborough.
Awesome.
The group remained outside the police station for several hours, attempting to gain access. They got a group of people crowded around the police station trying to get in so that they can arrest the police because the Queen of Canada told them to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At around 4 p.m., police officers arriving for their shift were blocked by protesters who also tried to gain access to a secured entrance of the police station. So this is where we're at, okay?
Yep.
Police arrested 54-year-old Millbrook man and charged him with mischief and resisting arrest, as well as a 56-year-old man and charging him with 2 counts of assaulting police. Although police no longer release names of accused people in media releases, Curtin can be seen in videos and in social media being dragged by 4 officers into the police station.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem when with the protection that you can have there, is if you voluntarily film your maskless face a whole bunch and then post it to your own social media, being like, hey, I'm this guy and I'm doing this crime now. That's not high level OPSEC.
Some strategy notes, because I do think the goal of arresting the police is a worthy one.
We love to see a queen thriving. We'd love to see you succeed next time, Romana.
Your heart's in the right place, I think.
Just keep going for it.
Also, I love this quote. Later in the evening, Didelot posted on social media that she had asked protesters to be peaceful and calm, and that putting oneself in harm's way is not the way to do it. The way to do what? To arrest the police in your town. Don't do it in a way where you could get hurt.
Awesome.
And that is Ramona Didelot.
I simply cannot help but stan. I think I would ask her to revisit at least one of her royal decrees. I think that overall, she just seems to be having a great time. You know, it's like the like a troubled kid who, you know, you find out that actually he's got a hobby now and he's got a project. I feel that way about all these QAnon guys who are following Romana around. They're just working on a little project with their queen.
One of the things that she talks about sometimes is that her following, which is largely in the United States, people in the United States are more likely to have guns than Canadians. So she talks about often like, well, if a bunch of armed people rolled into Canada, there's not much anybody could do about it.
Cool. Well,
So,
that's
very reassuring.
That's a positive step. That's cool. Okay. Well, lots to look forward to. I look forward to seeing her face on all of the propaganda of the new regime. And I want it to be known for future reference that I've been standing since the beginning.
Yeah, and if any of her royal subjects are watching this and are making a list of who is and is not loyal to the new queen, I just want it on record that I'm 100%. Do want to maybe have her double check some of them policies, but absolutely 100% loyal. Super where one we go, all of us are there. It's all of it is good. Love that.
Praying emoji, Republic of Canada,
Brock
United
emoji,
States,
magnifying glass emoji,
clown, igloo.
Sophie, where can interested followers of Didelot find you if they have questions for you?
If people want to come and give me presents, say hi, they want to bring me their favorite gun and show it to me very close, they can go to patreon.com/Sophie from Mars and help me to pay my rent and bills. And in gratitude for that, I will meet them in an undisclosed location without any kind of security, and it will go really well. If you check out my channel, Sophie from Mars, I make video essays and I chat about politics and media. And I've got a bunch of big stuff coming up about climate doomerism and the way the world is and how we can make it a better world than this one. Cool. I hope you'll all like it.
I look forward to the amount of content warnings I will have to put on this one.
Oh, wow. Yeah.